It's been said that it's dangerous to meet your heroes, but I'm willing to chance it. On this week's episode, we interview Wes Pritchett of the famed 1988 Notre Dame Fighting Irish, national champion and former NFL player.
Bald,
blind,
and buddies. Timmy C, TGIF, pal. How you doing today?
Happy Friday. Bright and early today.
I know. What do you got for me today? What are we doing? Got an interview, right?
Yeah.
We'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah, we have an interview. You know, people are listening to our podcast, all that stuff. Oh, here's the deal. If anybody wants to tweet about us, let us know because we can get it maybe amplified out there in the ether.
Okay. I made the conscious decision, and this is before Elon Musk lost his mind and blah, blah, blah. But I made the conscious decision that I was going to get off of Twitter. My boss at my old job, because I was part of business development, had utilized my Twitter to sort of, amplify our company and such. And I, before the election, I decided to tune out. And that was, going on 5 years now. It's been beneficial for my brain. I actually, I think those algorithms were evil. They amplify everything and they know like how to keep you, engaged. But to that end, what we're getting at is we would welcome anyone who wants to do it for us.
Who wants to do it for us? Yeah, absolutely. You want to wade into the mire of, crawl through the tunnel of sewage like Andy Dufresne? Go for it.
500 yards of shit-smelling fountains.
Follow this. I can never imagine.
Or maybe I just don't want to. That's the best. Yeah. Hey, we have a good interview with a former Notre Dame national champion. Well, I guess you're always a national champion. Wes Pritchett. He is the linebacker on the famed 1988 team. He graduated in 1989 as a fifth-year senior, and he will be joining us in a few moments. But before we do that, wanted to talk about, last week's podcast, which I found to be unbelievably interesting. General Scrimmetti, I thought was excellent. Have we gotten good reviews on that from downloads and such, Timmy?
Yeah, we're doing good. And I sent it. It looks like the email about it has gotten forwarded around. Sent it to Tennessee with his staff. And I think, people are taking a look.
Good. Excellent. Well, I'm excited to talk to Wes today, too, because my wife, as you know, Katie, is a Villanova graduate. And in the last 10 years, Villanova has won two national titles, and now they have a Pope, for God's sake. So we need something on the Notre Dame side. So we'll talk to Wes. When are we going to win another national title? I think it's soon. I think Marcus Freeman, I was wrong. I was not a fan of the hire simply because the history of hiring assistant coaches has not worked out terribly well for the Irish. To that end, though, he is young. He's African-American. He is extraordinarily well-spoken. Every player who talks about him as though he's just different. And I think that's evidenced by the recruiting and such. And
I think he's a developer of young men. Like a coach has to do a lot of things. They're supposed to win games, but it's also important that they're a role model and help these, help young men grow. And if there's one thing it looks like Marcus Freeman does well, it's definitely, the former happens, but the latter definitely.
Yeah, I think he is old school what the NCAA was initially, about, as opposed to simply making money. They were about, exactly like you're saying, developing young men and such. And I think he's done that. I think he and his wife have 6 children. It might be 7, but I believe it's 6 children. So he clearly has, has a love affair with developing children and so forth. And so good on him. So, yeah. And I have to tell people, whenever we do an interview, out of respect for time, we try to reserve the majority of the time for the guest. And sometimes they go long, sometimes they, have other things they want to say. And so we kind of truncate some of our segments, right, Timmy? And so, but let me do this. Let me introduce our guest, okay?
Let's do it.
So joining us today is a former linebacker on the 1988 National Championship team, a fellow by the name of Wesley Pritchett. He lives in Georgia. He's one of my favorites. They are part of my childhood. Stam, Stonebreaker, and Pritchett were the linebackers. There was Ned Bolkar in there as well. He was one of the key members of that national championship team in 1988. And so we're pleased to welcome Wes Pritchett to the show.
Welcome, Wes.
Wesley Pritchett, famed linebacker, number 34. you were a fifth-year senior, right? You played all 5 years at ND, Wes?
I did. It's kind of an interesting story. Well, I don't know if it's an interesting story, but I graduated from high school at 17. I was a baby. And, I got to Notre Dame. I was a tall, 6'5", 210-pound linebacker. And, they did not seem it appropriate for me to play for the team that year. So I spent a year as a Rudy. I was a scout team guy. And got my brains beat in for a year, but it was a great sort of rite of passage, if you will. And because of that, which I didn't realize at the time, I ended up being one of the 3 fifth-year seniors that won a national championship. So it worked. It actually worked out in my favor. It didn't seem like it at the time.
Could be worse, right?
Exactly.
Hey, why Notre Dame? Where else were you recruited, sir?
I got recruited pretty hard. I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia. My parents are from. I'm a very Southern, and my sister had gone to Georgia. The weird thing is my father, we're not Catholic. My father was a big Notre Dame fan, and my first college football game that I ever went to was the Notre Dame Georgia Tech game here in Atlanta. And that really made me love college football. And I remember we were in awe of Notre Dame, and I went down to the field because my father knew one of the coaches, and we got down and I got all the Notre Dame guys' autographs when I was probably, 7 years old or something like that. But an interesting life circle though. So I don't know how many years later that would be, 52 years later or something. My son, or 51 years later, my oldest son plays at Georgia Tech. The first game he ever played in was in the Georgia Dome against my alma mater, Notre Dame, and he was running down on kickoff for Georgia Tech.
Was that last season, Wes? Was that last season?
Yeah.
So
and that was his first game ever.
Yeah, the reason I bring that up, actually, one of your dorm mates, Paul Bunchu. So we try to get together. Paul Bunchu is from Alaska. Jimmy was my roommate in 116. Timmy lived in 117. Anyhow, we all tried to get together for a Notre Dame football game, and that was the easiest location to go to. So I was actually at that game at the Georgia Dome.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that was quite.
Yeah, we were there.
Uniforms. Oh, that's awesome. I wish I had known that.
Anyway, that was just something I think I believe now, looking back at my experience at Notre Dame and where my kids have ended up, that all this stuff was sort of a God thing. I mean, I remember I wanted to go to the University of Georgia. These were the Herschel Walker years. It was 1984. Georgia had been to the Sugar Bowl and Cotton Bowl for like 4 years in a row, which was a big deal back then. And I remember Georgia told me that they wanted me to be committed. They wanted me to commit to Georgia before I went on my last visit, which was Notre Dame. And I told them no way. I had to go up to South Bend. Well, I had never been north of North Carolina. I was not a world traveler. And I go up there. It's cold. Mike Kovaleski's my host, and I meet Wally Klein and Mike Perino and Larry Williams. I mean, all these guys. These guys. Notre Dame was the biggest team, I think, in college football back then by, maybe Michigan and USC, but they were huge. And, it was cold. It wasn't like a Southern college. And I came back and I remember thinking, I'm not sure about this Notre Dame thing. And Georgia actually, I don't know if they pulled my scholarship, but they sort of started waffling on my scholarship. And I was like, well, I'm going to Notre Dame. It was meant to be. So that's how I ended up there. But also, I had been recruited very hard by George Kelly and by Mal Moore. Mal Moore had, played at Alabama, he coached at Alabama, and he and my parents became very close. And he was a big reason that I went to Notre Dame too. So, and I went into a good school in Atlanta, and I had bought into the whole 4 for 40. That's all my dad used to ever tell me about Notre Dame. Go to school for 4 years there, and it'll pay out for the rest of your life. So. Those are the main reasons.
Great story.
Yeah.
You were recruited by Jerry Faust, right?
I was.
He was the coach. The reason I bring that up is, Jerry Faust, unfortunately, his last game was that disaster down in Miami, 58-7. And just real quick, it's 40 plus years later. Do you think Jimmy Johnson ran up the score?
100%. Without a doubt.
Yeah.
No.
And because of that, you hate Miami, right?
I truly do. Yes.
I get that. I do too. Those are such a formative years. Those years.
Well, I mean, we that was Jerry's last game. I played a lot in that game for whatever reason. And, it was just, they were clearly the better team. They were winning, I guess, 51-7 with a couple of minutes left. They block a kick, a punt, and throw a 20-yard pass into the end zone. So you tell me, you think they were running it up?
Why?
They were 100% running it up. So it was miserable, and I just felt bad for the guys that were seniors. It was very, the way that they were so cocky and arrogant, and their whole, their swagger, they had a different vibe than any team he played. He let them do that. He sort of, encouraged it, I think. So anyway, and they were pretty good too. So I did not like Miami.
No. To that end, a couple guys from Holy Cross. You were a Holy Cross hog, obviously. That dorm is no longer. I think you called it the land of misfit toys. Is that what you called it?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. So Paul Bunchu, who was with me at the game, he's a couple years older than Jimmy, his brother, and I. He sent a couple of hogs, put together some questions for you. You okay if I ask one or two?
Sure.
Yeah. The two questions that I would wonder for you is, do you have a story you can tell us from your first meeting with Holts? Because the class of 87, Paul being among them, said that they knew when Holts came in, even though it was 1 year, and I think the team ended up going 5-6, that it was just different. They were on the right trajectory and so forth. And they wanted to know any good stories from your first meeting with Holts, any stories you want to share about Holts, and then secondarily, what happened in that USC game with Ricky Waters and Brooks?
Well, the Holtz first meeting was insane. It's become sort of an epic story. So Jerry, we're sitting in the little team room that was in the ACC, crowded, and Jerry's saying goodbye, and he's walking up the stairs, resigning basically. And the second he gets to the top of the stairs, Lou comes almost sprinting down. I think he passed him in the aisle. And I'm sitting in the front row next to Chuck Lanza, who ends up being the captain the next year. And we have our feet, we're leaning back in our chairs, and we have our feet up on the stage. And Lou walks up and kicks kicks Chuck's feet off the stage and says, "When I'm talking, you sit up straight in your chair. You look me straight in the eye. It's my way or the highway. I'm not a patient man. These are our priorities in life. This is the way it's going to be. This is not a popularity contest." Basically, everybody just kind of looked around like, what just happened? It was all about accountability, priorities. Lou had a whole framework of what he was going to, that he was going to use or, insert that was going to change everything about our culture, the way we practice, the intensity, the accountability, just everything. And, he knew it worked, but we had a long way to go. And so the first day was just a complete shock. And he told us, we're going to have 6 o'clock workouts or 6:30 workouts tomorrow morning and this and that. And so the next day I'm in Holy Cross. So I got to get up at, 5:30. It's dark. And I tell my kids a story. They don't believe me. I walk across the frozen lake in the dark, right? Because I got to walk. It would take it cut 2 or 3 minutes off. So I didn't think about it. I'm walking across and I'm at the farthest point.
Nowhere, right? Yeah.
And I'm at the farthest point from the ACC, I think, on campus. So I got to be at the ACC at 6 a.m. Anyway, it was awful. I get there, we get dressed, and then, of course, we don't know any of the coaches. And the way they ran, I think probably at least 50% of the team threw up that day. So it was awful. It was awful. It was mat drills. They knew what they were doing. They punished us. We had just come back from a big Christmas break, so guys weren't really training, and that was it, man. It set the tone. There was a new sheriff in town. The only thing that had changed was everything, and that was the start of, I think, the transformation. It took a couple of years, but the mindset changed that day, whether we knew it or not.
Wow. Yeah. For those who don't know, Holy Cross it's basically Siberia, right? That's as far. It's almost a separate.
Yeah, it was really unfair to make students live over there.
Do you want to tell us a little bit, or is this sort of understood between the team? We keep silent. What happened with Brooks and Waters in that USC game?
The Brooks and Waters. Lou basically had a zero tolerance, right? I think you got one. If you were late for anything, you had to do the 6 a.m. sort of something that you would not want to do again. for I think a week or something like that. I can't even remember because I was never late. There was no way in hell I was going to be late. And so we would I set my watch 10 minutes fast, and I was never late. So anyway, we get out. I think Ricky, I can't really remember, but I'm pretty sure Ricky and Tony had been late earlier. Like they were living on the edge over the course of the year. So here's the biggest game of the year, number 1 versus number 2, 10-0, 10-0. And the night before the game, they're an hour late to the meeting. That was it. I mean, basically the players met and, we are and said, send them home. And then Lou calls all the seniors in and says, what do you guys want to do? We said, send them home. That's it. Yeah. And then we had a team meeting without the coaches and basically had like a Braveheart moment where the guys came in and said, look, next guy, this is next man up. We're going to jump higher, run faster, hit harder. The game was over after that meeting. I can tell you that. We went out there and just punched them right in the face. I mean, it was Tony a mindset that we had.
Tony Rice on the
Tony Rice on the outs. The defense smashed them too. And another, I remember we had not blitzed all year. You got to understand, we basically sat in our base defense and just beat people. And I remember the first play of the game, I look over there and Alvarez calls like a linebacker blitz, both inside linebackers blitzing. And we smack them in the backfield. And I look over, he calls it again. So we end up blitzing probably 60% of the plays in that game, which was because, and I asked Barry about it actually not too long ago, just rekindling why. He said, well, we hadn't blitzed all year and we did it and they had no answer for it. So we kept doing it. So there you go.
And you had a fumble recovery in that game, right?
I can't remember. I know I had a couple big hits in that game.
Oh, man.
I guess I'm curious. I mean, Lou was a very dynamic and clearly, strong personality. As a young man, what did you take away from that? Like, are there lessons that you've translated that have carried over from those types of experiences?
I would say that, at the time we didn't really understand all these things that he was talking about his 3 rules, which are do what's right, do the next right thing, and let the people that you love know that you love them or that you care.
Yeah,
that's it. And it didn't mean that much to me as a player at the time, even though we sort of had a new framework to operate within. But I think if you look at the success of the players under Lou and further later in life, in business, as fathers, as friends, whatever. I mean, I think our success and our kids' success of the guys that played under him speaks volumes. I mean, I think my children are amazing people. They're great athletes. I mean, I'm just proud of everything they do. And they've lived their life hearing me say the things that Lou told me when I was, at Notre Dame, because I wouldn't say that my parents were great people, but we didn't have like a framework for life. This guy plugged it in and said, this is it. Boom, just play in these guidelines. And, looking back at it, I think he was a life coach. Mm-hmm. And, he's still saying the same things 35 years later because they're right.
Yeah.
So, yes, I would say that Lou was extremely transformational. And I would say that, when I don't think it came naturally, but I think when you see it over time, when you hear what he's saying over and over again, and then you do it yourself and you see success, and then you tell your children and they do it and they have success. I don't know. It's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy, but it's everything about my life.
What would you say for people who haven't had that wonderful experience? Like, how would you, encourage people to find that? Because I feel like people are looking for that.
Well, we were truly, I think we were blessed because we were young, impressionable kids that, Lou used to say it all the time, look around the locker room. This is all you have. You better believe the guys that are in this room. It was a little bit probably like people feel in war.
Like
of course, we weren't dying, but yeah, I mean, it was the same sort of mentality. So, I mean, I think you can listen to sort of, Lou breaks it down very simply. His literally mm-hmm. the 3 rules. You can Google that and go through. There's a million examples he has online about how he uses those three principles in his life and his kid's life. It's not as impactful just listening to it and wanting to do it as it would be having to live it and being sort of in a bunker with guys. So
yeah, that makes sense.
It's sort of drilled in your head over time, I think, when you hear it every day.
Yeah.
I have a two-part question. Well, a statement really, and then a question, if that's okay for you. First, I'd like you to hold court and brag on your kids a little bit because they're just as impressive as you are. So that's number one. And number two, do you get that same impression, from afar, obviously, you're 30 plus years out, as Timmy and I are. Do you get that impression that Marcus Freeman is the molder of men? Because I'll be the first person to tell you, Notre Dame's success with hiring an assistant coach has not been great, right? People without head coaching experience, but he seems to have risen to the occasion. And I get there's just something different about him. Do you agree with that? So tell us a little bit about your kids, and then what do you see in Marcus Freeman?
Well, my boys are a redshirt freshman, a freshman, and a sophomore in high school. So my oldest son is going into his second year at Georgia Tech. He plays football there, and he played in 4 or 5 games last year. Or he played in 4 games because he got redshirted. So you can play in 4 games and not lose a year of eligibility. So he came in as a safety. He was like 6'3", 190 when he got there, and now he's 225. So they moved him to linebacker in the spring, and he's excited about his opportunity and where he's going to go. And he's got I think a 3.7 GPA at Tech, which is pretty amazing. So while playing football. My next son, Marshall. Well, that's Lawson. My middle son is Marshall. He is tight end at Alabama, and he is both of them. This is a thing now. They both enrolled early, so they went in. So they go in January. So they have the whole off-season workouts. They have spring ball. They go to school, and then they go to summer school. So he's been in this. It's totally different now. They meet and practice every day. I mean, he's in football 24/7. It's a time-wise, I think, an even bigger commitment than when we were there. And there's actual science and nutrition and everything else involved. So he also has put on. I think when he signed, he was 211. He reported to camp at 248. So he put on 37 pounds in a year, or less than that. He put on about 25 in 6 months under their program. He's a monster. And he's getting a lot of big reviews. We'll see how the season goes, but excited about his possibilities there this year. And then the baby is he was in Charleston. He's a football and lacrosse player, and he's probably leaning towards lacrosse. He loves it. All 3 of my boys played high-level lacrosse, and in fact, they got recruited to play lacrosse. But the older 2 wanted to play football, and I think the baby wants to play lacrosse. But he plays football as well, and he's a very good football player. So he just reclassed, and he's going to Salisbury boarding school in Connecticut, and he reports there in 2 weeks. And I'm excited about his opportunity there. He plays on this lax club called Sweet Lax, which is a very high rate, one of the top 5 programs in the country, and they're affiliated with Salisbury. And Salisbury was actually ranked at one point during the season last year, number 1 in the country. I mean, they had 20 guys go Division I last year. It's sort of a lacrosse powerhouse, if you will. And so that's his goal. And so, it goes back to what I've told them ever since they were little kids. I mean, I just always told them, if you're going to do something, you got to give 125%. Don't worry about everybody else. Worry about yourself, and do the best you can. And I'll be darned, I think they listened. So I'm very proud of them. They really are. They're severe. I mean, they're great human. Forget about the athletic accomplishments. They do well in school. They're good people. They've never been in trouble. They're just very well-rounded, grounded children. And then, my fiance has an 11-year-old daughter, and she has gotten into lacrosse as a result of watching the boys. And so I'm watching. She's in her second year, our third year competitive year coming up, and she's become a stud. I think they've influenced her to realize that you have to work hard in everything. And she always says she's going to be the CEO of the company, and she's the valedictorian of her class. But listen, it's fun to be a positive influence on younger kids, and the only reason that I have the ability to even attempt to, give the right sort of information and guidance is attributed a large part or mostly to what I learned under Lou Holts. You know who Brian Fenton is?
I do not. Do you know, Timmy?
No, I don't.
All right. So Brian Fenton, you'll have to look him up, but he's top 5 in the military for the United States. And I know he runs all special forces globally. And he worked for the defense secretary under Trump's first administration, and I'm sure he has something to do with it in this administration. A super guy. Went to Notre Dame. He's a great guy that you should look into interviewing. This guy is so he was one of the head trainers at Notre Dame when I was senior, or maybe a junior. But anyway, I hadn't seen the guy in 30 years, and I run into him. I see him at the football games now all the time. Well, not at the football games. I've probably seen him 2 or 3 times. This guy's had. I mean, you can look it up. He's got like silver medal, Purple Hearts. Like he's as decorated as it gets, and he's been associated with some of the most impressive leaders in the military. And he said to this day that Lou Holts is the most influential person he's ever been around in his life.
Yeah.
So that says it all right
there. What a
there.
tribute. Yeah. Yeah.
Does Lou Holtz know that? Because that's something that you should tell.
He does know that. He does.
He does. That's quite something. And by the way, we actually have, as it happens, talk about an impressive guy. My wife is a pediatric nurse practitioner, and the head of her unit is married to a former Navy SEAL, and we're going to be interviewing him coming up. I have questions beyond belief, because I think there's comparisons. I was not a football player. My mother would not let us play. I played soccer. To that end, though, I think there's quite a bit of similarity between the military and football and such. That doesn't surprise me that Holtz was such an influence. But what do you think of Coach Freeman, Wes?
I mean, listen, I liked him from day one when they hired him, and everybody was, I think there was mixed feelings about it. I was a big proponent of him. I thought that he had a lot of passion. I thought that he, I don't think I thought at the time that he was as bought in as he is. But I was very positive on his message is very similar. He came from a military family.
Yeah.
He's discipline. It's discipline, accountability, never giving up, working as a team, giving it all your all. I mean, the formula for success hasn't changed. If you look at Bear Bryant, Nick Saban, Lou Holtz, all the great coaches, Bobby Knight, their message is generally the same. And I think Marcus has a lot of that. I think Lou said it best. Because here's another reason that I knew that Marcus got it. The first thing he did when he got there was he brought back going to church, the mass before the game, which I didn't even realize they had taken that away. Second thing he did, actually, that was the second thing he did. The first thing he did was he realized that he needed to bring the players back into the program. Like that, we weren't. Brian Kelly had pushed the players away, which was weird. He embraced the players, and the first thing he did was send out these broad emails to try to get everybody on a call, and he would have periodic or like monthly or quarterly calls about the state of the program, which I thought was awesome. And then in his first spring game, he invited all the players back that could come, and I think we had probably 200 or 300 players at least came back, and we had a cocktail hour, and he had all the alumni, write down whatever business they were in, and he broke it out into sections. And then he had the players come in, and he said, "Listen, this is our NIL. You guys need to learn from these guys how to go make it in the world." And I thought, man, that's insightful. And so we got to know, we had like a cocktail hours, and then the kids got to divide up into whoever they wanted to talk to. They wanted to get into broadcasting or business or finance, whatever, engineering. And so and this was like a 2 or 3 hour deal. And then we left, and I thought, well, now you got all the old players bought in. You got the new players bought in. Like this guy gets it. Like Notre Dame should be leveraging their culture and who came before, and having the great players on the sidelines like Miami and Alabama and all these other programs do. So, but Lou said it best. And then also Marcus pulled Lou. He would meet with Lou periodically, And so Lou would, whether he would go down to see Lou or Lou would come up and just asking him questions about what did you do? How did you see this? How did you see that? And that's awesome when you're doing that.
That is
because
awesome.
he didn't think he knew it all. You know, he wanted to learn from guys that had been there. And Lou said, listen, I think Marcus is going to be a great coach. And he understands, you know, he's doing all the right things. He said, but he's going to have to go through it. He's going to have to take the losses and be in those situations. He goes, you know, when I got to Notre Dame, I had already been in all those situations. So I sort of knew how to respond. He's going to have to ultimately lean on his process and figure out what it is. And I think that's exactly what the guy's done. You know, I mean, he had a couple of you know, what you would say losses we shouldn't have had, but he also beat a bunch of good teams. So, you know,
you got to take your lumps.
You got to take your lumps. Look, life is not easy. You learn more from your defeats than you do from your victories, unfortunately. But I think they're on a roll now. I think the culture, everything he's got going now is they're. I mean, the winds in their sails. I think Notre Dame's going to be good for the next 10 years.
That's what I like to hear, because before you jumped on the podcast, Wes, I was joking that my wife, she's a nurse practitioner. She's a hero. She deals with children, as is Timmy. He's a doctor. She went to Villanova, and not only do they have 2 national titles, but now they have a pope. I'm not terribly religious like you. We've talked about that, but we got to get something in my cap, because after Villanova won in 2016, she had the big V in our garage, and I said, "Are we going to take that down?" And she said, "Well, when Notre Dame wins again, you can put up whatever you want." So,
rubbing salt in the wounds.
Yeah, you know, doing some reading, it looks like at some point you and a couple other linebackers were called the knuckleheads, or clowning around. And we talk about this on the podcast, like humor and the ability to laugh at yourself or things like that. Is that still a part of your life? What does clowning around mean for you?
You know, I think it was part of our personality at Notre Dame at that point in time. I was always a jokester, and I think Frank and Stoney kind of were too. Stoney probably Frank and I probably more the instigators, but you know, that was a great thing. Barry Alvarez was a gift to us as a team, and he just fit our personality very well. He was sort of the alter ego to Lou Holts, and he let us be ourselves and let us play, and we showed up and play, and Lou kind of let it go because he realized that we were having great success, and we were, you know, and we were leading and we were winning, and the environment was getting better and better, and the camaraderie and you know, I mean, there was a cohesiveness and a camaraderie and everything that came together with that team that year that was magical. You know, and I think every championship team probably says the same thing. I don't know where it came from, what happened. And, you know, we had kids from different socioeconomic backgrounds, geographies that all blended together. And so, you know, I would just say that, I don't even know what to say other than it was just a special time. And you know, I'm blessed to have experienced it. So.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. You're you know, simultaneously discipline and accountability is important, but also that you know enough to let up a little bit and let people be themselves, and success makes its own argument. You know, I'm kind of hearing all those things.
Yeah. No, I think the comic relief was good for everybody, just to have stuff to sort of break it up. And by the way, here's what I know: if you're having fun, when you're having fun, it's not miserable, and you play better and you practice better and your attitude's better. And I think that was just a reflection too, that we were just having fun. I mean, we were the same funny guys before, but we weren't having fun.
Right.
Now, all of a sudden we were in a situation where we were actually having fun, and you know, playing football and losing is not fun. You put a lot of time, effort, a lot of hard sweat, you know, I mean, you get beat up, people have no idea how much you're treating your body. Mm-hmm. And especially back then. Now look at watching what they do for my children versus what, I mean, I played in literally like the Stone Age compared to what they have now. I mean, it's, you know, they don't even hardly hit anymore in practice. We absolutely killed each other. I mean, we had 2-a-days was a rite of passage. 2-a-days meant 2-a-days, and that was fall camp. And, you know, it was full pads twice a day, and we absolutely destroyed each other. And now the kids, they don't have 2-a-days, and they barely even do shoulder pad. They do shoulder pads like 50% of the time, and they don't even hit, and they meet all day. and train and recover. All they do is work on their bodies.
It's not fair.
It's all
is it,
about
Wes?
recovery.
It's not fair. Yeah.
It's really not fair. What do you mean your body had to make it? That was like everybody knew your body had to make it, but we didn't do anything to help it.
Right. Yeah. Wow.
Hey,
what,
Wes,
what a change.
tell us about Catholics versus convicts. For those who don't know who are Notre Dame obsessed like I am, that was the classic October 15th, 1988, the game of number 1 Miami against number 4 Notre Dame. This was the opportunity for revenge, right? The Holts had basically...
Yeah, I mean, that whole week, we talked about how much I hated them anyway. And, we thought we were pretty good. They were sort of the guys on top of the hill. I mean, I don't think they had lost a game in 2 years. Something like that. I can't remember what their streak was, but it was a lot. And, they came in favored, cocky. I sort of felt like it was payback. I mean, we were jacked going into that game for sure. There was a buzz around the campus that I've never even seen before or felt before. You could feel it. It was like an energy. Anyway, so our typical warm up, we would go through our drills, and then the last thing we would do is line up for a punt in the end zone and punt towards the 50-yard line, and the team would line up behind the punt team across the back line there. Well, every other game we had ever played, the visiting team would go around to the outside on the visitor sideline and go into the visitor locker room. Well, Miami ran right through the middle of our drill.
Yes, they did.
And we just that was it. And we just freaking, I mean, I don't know. I wasn't the first punch, but I was in the first 5. And it was mayhem. It was not like 5 guys. It was 50, 60 guys. I mean, it was as many guys as could get together and start fighting each other. And right there in the tunnel. And somehow the cops came down or whatever. They broke it up, and we went up into the locker room, and everybody's going nuts. I mean, chalkboards are getting thrown around, like, I mean, they did us a favor at the end of the day, getting us that, to get us that excited about the game. And that's where Lou gives the famous speech about leave Jimmy Johnson's ass for me. So he's giving his whole pregame. He goes, leave Jimmy Johnson's ass for me. And we just go storming out the tunnel. Well, Lou tells the story. He goes, I wasn't done with my speech. Well, we were done. So that was it. And in that game, I actually broke my hand in the first quarter and knew it was broken and couldn't feel it because I was so jacked up. I remember walking over to the sidelines and calling Jim Russ, the trainer, over and said, take my finger together. I broke my hand. And Alvarez is looking at me. He goes, what do you mean you broke your hand? I go, tell me about the defense. He tapes my finger together. Barry tells me the defense. I ran back in. So I ended up having 14 tackles in that game.
Wow.
So that is what commitment to beating Miami looks like.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you. From the bottom of my soul. Thank you. I have 2 questions for you, if it's okay, about that game specifically. Cleveland Gary, who is now a successful business owner in South Florida, he says he didn't fumble. George Streeter, who knocked the ball out, says he sure as hell did. So does Brent Musburger, who was calling that game. What say you 37 years later?
It doesn't matter because
Nope.
they got the ball back. At like 3 plays later, Tony Rice fumbles a ball, and they didn't score. Their last touchdown wasn't a touchdown.
No, it was not. No.
So boo-hoo. No. Sorry, no. I that argument is like, get a life. Now that's not you didn't score a touchdown. You got the ball back. It was a close call on the goal line. Whatever.
Yeah.
Screw you. Now I'll tell you one thing though. I remember on that 2-point play, we were in man coverage, and I had Cleveland Gary, and he was not going to catch that touchdown, the 2-point play.
That's my next question. Nicely done. I appreciate it. One of my heroes is, of course, Pat Terrell, who I know you know personally. Todd Light always jokes that he should have caught that damn ball in the 2-point conversion. What do you think?
Yeah, that's all right. Well, the reason he was on the defense is because he couldn't catch.
Right. Todd Light, you mean. Or Pat Terrell, you mean, right?
Yeah, well, no. Pat came in as a wide receiver. Ran great routes, fast, big, strong, couldn't catch. So Lou moved into defense.
And my final question to you about that game in particular. Holtz always maintained that trick plays mean you can't beat us straight up. To your point, you were talking about this earlier. You basically ran your base defense all year. You didn't blitz. Trick plays was the sign that you had them on the ropes. When they faked that punt, did you have a sense, or was it you knew after that fight in the tunnel that we're going to win?
Well, Lou always said, that the other team will flinch at some point in the game. that if your will is stronger. And I'll be darned if he wasn't right, but yes, I mean, he brings that up. I didn't really think of it at the time. When you're in the game like that, you're just trying to go out there and do your job and try to kill people. I mean, that's all I tried to do, and keep everybody together. And but in hindsight, yeah, they did flinch. They went for it on fourth down. They faked a punt, and we stopped them. There were so many big. I've watched that game 100 times now, but so many big plays in that game and pivotal plays in that game. It was just an unbelievable football game.
Yeah, it's one of my, it's like seared in my memory. I was 13 years old. I'll never forget it. Like it was yesterday. My sister was a sophomore. She lived in Howard, as Timmy and I say, we lived in Dillon across the quad there. But it's part of my childhood. I mean, you are one of my heroes.
Well, it was voted the number one game. It was voted the number one game in Notre Dame Stadium in the 19th century, or 20th century. And, I don't know. Of all the games I've been there have been very few games that had that kind of energy and emotion and quality of a football game. So the 93 game against Florida State was similar, maybe.
Yeah, but that was let's skip over that one because we know what happened the next week.
Right.
But I will tell you, Tom Coughlin was the coach of BC at that time in 1993, and I'm a diehard Giants fan, so I can't be that mad at him because he's won 2 Super Bowls for me. So.
Well, and my brother played at BC.
Is that right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, small world. Final question for you, because out of respect for your time, and I could talk to you for hours, quite literally. You have been a fantastic interview. Thank you so much for joining us. Did you guys, when you guys got on the plane in Arizona, heading to Arizona for the Fiesta Bowl, did you have any doubt you're going to beat West Virginia?
None.
I didn't think so. I thought that was
after we beat Miami. We never flinched. We never thought. We knew that there was a crazy air and confidence about our team. And, a story that my dad was like my hero and tough guy, was in the military, and he had a stroke going into my senior year. And so he had been in a coma all year. So I had dedicated the season to my dad. And so all the emotions kind of caught up to me in Arizona, and at the Fiesta Bowl, getting off, all of a sudden I became like possessed. I remember getting off the bus and I had my headphones on and I'm just sobbing. And everybody said, "What's going on?" And I just said, "I'm going to kill somebody." And that was kind of, and unfortunately Major Harris ended up being that guy. So I had never had a late hit in my life. I had 2 in that game. I mean, I was just out of my mind. Even Stoney said he'd come over to the sideline and be like, "Barry, you got to get him out. Like something's wrong with Pritchett." So,
Timmy, do you have any final questions? I know Wes has got to run. He's got to go be a financial advisor. That's what you're doing now, successfully, right, Wes?
I am. Yep. Been in the business 32 years. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been in the I've been in the financial industry. So when I got done with Notre Dame, Lou wrote me a letter of recommendation. And I went to Dick Rosenthal, who had worked on Wall Street, and said, this is what I want to do. I want to be an institutional bond salesman. And so they helped me set up some interviews. And my brother was living in New York working for Kidder Peabody. And so this is 1992, I think, or 3. And so I ended up getting a job at Kidder Peabody in their training program in 1993. And so that was 32 years ago. And so I was on the institutional side of the business for 20 years. And then my brother had been on the high net worth side of the business, or family office type business. And I joined him 10 years ago. And so we have a team. I don't work with him anymore. I have my own team, but I work for Janney Montgomery Scott. And we just became the wealth management partner of the Philadelphia Eagles, actually, our firm. So
yeah, I did know that.
Yeah, we have a team. We manage money for wealthy individuals, and we're actually working on doing a deal with the NIL, the group, the Teamworks. It's like the software for all the colleges. So we'll see. That's another. I mean, listen, this whole thing with the NIL. These kids are getting paid, and they're 1099 employees, and they're not taking taxes out of their paychecks. I mean, it's insanity.
It's good work if you can get it though, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah.
You skipped over kind of quickly. You played in the NFL too for a year or 2.
I did.
Yeah.
I played in the NFL for 3 years. Drafted by the Dolphins. Yeah. I did skip.
Don't skip over that part.
Yeah, I went straight from I basically went straight. I remember this is a funny story. I mean, it's not like it's nothing, but maybe $100,000 in the NFL, getting hurt. I got a broken hand, I had a dislocated shoulder. And I had my best friend in high school was a guy that had gone to MBA school, and his dad was a Wall Street guy, and he had gotten a great job at Wall Street. And he kept telling me the whole time I'm playing football, like, what are you doing, man? You can come make $300,000-$400,000 doing this. I'm like, well, what do you do? So I lived with him that summer. And after my third year of playing in the NFL, I was like, I'm going to work on Wall Street. I'll never forget, my agent calls me, goes, you get ready for camp? I said, nope, going to Wall Street. And that was it. I quit.
That's a great story.
And I never looked back.
Yeah.
So,
well, Timmy, why don't you?
Well, I guess Wes.
Final question. Let's let Wes offer his hero or his whack job.
That actually is my final question. Like, we on this podcast we often call out a whack job or a hero. Is there someone you want to highlight? I mean, I've already heard sort of perhaps Coach Holts. Is there someone you want to call out as a hero?
I mean, I would say my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents. I would call them heroes. I mean, they gave everything they had to support my brother and I, and I wouldn't have ever gotten to Notre Dame if it hadn't have been for them. To be fair, I mean, the school that my mom went back and got a job for me to go to the private school that I went to in Atlanta, that I ultimately got a scholarship to Notre Dame. So there you go.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Well, Wes, I appreciate you taking the time, good sir. You are always, always, always welcome back on. I thought this was an absolutely fabulous interview. You have no idea, but I have a smile from ear to ear because it's literally like talking to my childhood, reliving it through these stories, and it's even better than I anticipated. So thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Well, you're welcome. Welcome. My pleasure.
Thanks, Wes. I really appreciate it. John is going to be so obnoxiously talking about this for the next 2 or 3 weeks. So
Good.
Yeah, I don't know if I should thank you for that, but I do thank you for the interview. I learned a heck of a lot. Thanks.
Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate the time.
So, John, I'm not looking forward to you being obnoxious about this interview for the next couple weeks.
That is probably the understatement of the decade. Yeah, that's probably the understatement of the decade. It's just, it's almost like I was able to travel back in time listening to him, and you can't see it on audio, but I have a smile from ear to ear. I mean, those guys, that defensive team, from Todd Light, Pat Terrell, Ned Volcar, and Stonebreaker, and Stams, and Pritchett. I mean, that's my childhood. And listening to him tell the stories firsthand about what happened when and so forth, it's just fabulous. And again, people who hate Notre Dame, there's a reason. I get it. And I don't object, but I'm also a Yankees fan, so I get that as well. So, but he was a great interview, and he's always welcome back on. So
yeah, and I appreciated, the ideas of character and discipline and accountability. We talk about presentism, right? Judging things based on our standards now, but those standards are timeless, and they've. I think we lose track of them and how important they are to implement them. And it's so neat to hear a story of Lou Holts and a team and how those things come to bear. They're timeless.
Yeah. Lou Holts' 3 rules, which, it's pretty simple, but it's straightforward. And I've heard this before. Do what's right. Do your best at all times, and tell the people that you love them.
Yeah.
That's not bad advice for life.
Yeah.
So and like Wes said, the key to success and such really hasn't changed, whether it be, Bear Bryant to Lou Holtz or whatever coach. It's, timeless formula. It's just timeless formula. You just need to put in the work. So yeah, I'm like a kid on Christmas right now, Timmy. So, well, listen, enjoy your Friday. And this is John Bolin signing off saying, hey, misbehave, drive fast, take chances.
And this is Tim saying, if everybody likes what you're doing, you're probably not doing anything worthwhile. Take care out there.